The drought had turned the land into something brittle and angry. Dust rolled across the valley like a living thing, settling into fence posts, windowsills, and the creases of worry on every rancher's face. Creek beds that once ran lively and loud now lay silent, cracked open like broken promises. Out here, water meant survival land. There was only one well left standing. Jessica Harper stood at the edge of her family's ranch, hands on her hips, staring toward the distant rise where the old McAllister well stood. The sun pressed down hard, baking her skin and shortening her temper. That well wasn't on Harper land, but it might as well have been. Her family had helped dig it years ago, long before rivalries hardened like the soil beneath her boots. Now, the McAllisters claimed it as theirs. Damn them, Jessica muttered. Her father's cattle were thinning, ribs showing through hides like shadows. Every morning she hauled buckets farther and farther, praying for rain that never came. Pride told her to hold the line. Survival told her to cross it. By the time she mounted her horse and headed toward the well, her jaw was set. James McAllister was already there when she arrived. He leaned against the well's wooden frame, hat pulled low, sleeves rolled up, forearms dusty and strong from hauling water since dawn. The sight of him tightened something in Jessica's chest, part anger, part something she refused to name. He straightened when he saw her, expression hardening into something familiar and guarded. "Well," James said slowly, "if it isn't a Harper." Jessica swung down from her horse. "You don't own the sun, James. No reason to act like you own the ground it shines on." His mouth twitched, almost a smile, but it vanished just as fast. "This well's on McAllister land, and my family helped dig it," she shot back. "When your PA's hands weren't strong enough to hold a shovel." Silence stretched between them, thick as the dust in the air. The wind stirred, carrying the scent of dry earth and something else, tension, old grudges, and words never said. James glanced toward the horizon, where Harper land lay thirsty and brown. "This drought's got everyone desperate," he said, voice lower now. "But that doesn't mean we throw history out the window." Jessica stepped closer, eyes flashing. "History won't keep cattle alive, or families." For a moment, James said nothing. She saw it, then the same strain she felt mirrored in his face. Dark circles under his eyes, worry lines carved deep for a man too young to carry them. "My ma says sharing the well is asking for trouble," he admitted. "Says Harpers take more than they give." Jessica laughed sharply. "Funny, my PA says the same about Mc." Their eyes locked, and something shifted like the first crack before a storm. Not peace, not yet, but recognition. James exhaled. "If we're doing this," he said, nodding toward the well, "there'll be rules." Jessica crossed her arms. "Name them." "Scheduled hours, equal water, no trespassing beyond the well." She hesitated, pride warring with necessity. Then she nodded. "Fine." James extended his hand, rough and dust-streaked. "Then we have an agreement." Jessica stared at it for a heartbeat longer than necessary before placing her hand in his. The contact sent a spark up her arm, unexpected and unwelcome. Neither of them let go right away. Above them, the sky remained cloudless. But beneath it, something had begun, something that would test loyalties, ignite old fires, and draw two stubborn hearts closer than either was ready to admit. The agreement worked at least on paper. In practice, it was a slow-burning test of patience. Jessica arrived at the well before sunrise. The next morning, the sky painted pale pink and gold. She brought 2 empty barrels and a heart full of resolve. If the McAllisters were watching, she'd give them no reason to complain. Every drop would be measured. Every rule followed. James was already there. He stood beside the well, checking the pulley rope, movements efficient and quiet. When he noticed her, he tipped his hat, not friendly, not hostile. Just acknowledgement. "You're early," he said. "So are you," Jessica replied, setting her barrels down. "Didn't think you trusted me." "I don't," he said plainly. Then, after a beat, "But I trust the Drought less." They worked in silence, the only sounds the creak of the pulley and the splash of water echoing inside the well. Jessica focused on the rhythm lower pull, per anything to ignore the way James's presence filled the space. She could feel him there without looking, steady as the ground beneath her feet. When her barrels were half full, a horse approached from the McAllister side. James stiffened. His younger brother Eli rode up, eyes sharp and suspicious. "What's she doing here?" "Same as us," James answered. "Getting water." Eli's gaze flicked to Jessica. "Pa won't like this." Jessica straightened. "Your PA doesn't have to like it. Neither does mine." Eli snorted. "Harpers always push their luck." James shot his brother a warning look. "Enough." Eli hesitated, then dismounted, tension rolling off him in waves. "This won't last," he muttered. "Someone's gonna cross a line." Jessica met his stare. "Not today." Eli filled his canteens quickly and left without another word, dust trailing behind him like a bad omen. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. "Sorry about him," James said. "He's protective." "So am I," Jessica replied. "Doesn't make us right." James studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Fair." As days passed, their routine settled into something almost normal. Morning and evening schedules, equal measures. Careful distance, they spoke only when necessary, but each encounter chipped away at the sharp edges of old resentment. One afternoon, as the sun blazed mercilessly overhead, Jessica's horse spooked at a rattlesnake coiled near the well. The animal reared, knocking her off balance. She hit the ground hard, the breath knocked clean out of her lungs. James was at her side instantly. "You all right?" he asked, crouching beside her. She nodded, gasping, "Just winded." Without thinking, he steadied her shoulders, his hands warm and sure. For a moment, the world narrowed to his touch, his concerned eyes searching her face. "I've got you," he said softly. The words lingered longer than they should have. Jessica pulled away first, scrambling to her feet. "I don't need rescuing." "I can see that," James said, standing too. A faint smile tugged at his mouth. "Doesn't mean I won't help." Their eyes met again, and this time neither looked away quickly. But peace was fragile. That night, Harper cattle were found grazing too close to McAllister fences. Voices rose. Accusations flew. By morning, word spread fast. Someone had taken more water than agreed. Jessica rode out, furious, heart pounding. She found James waiting at the well, arms crossed, jaw tight. "Your family broke the rules," he said. Jessica shook her head. "Not us. Someone's lying." "Someone always does," he replied. The line they'd drawn in the dust felt thinner now, ready to disappear with the next hard step. And both of them knew this fragile truce was about to be tested in ways neither family was prepared for. The accusations spread faster than the heat. By noon, the well had become a gathering point not just for water, but for anger. Harper hands stood on one side, McAllister men on the other, every face drawn tight with suspicion. The drought had stripped away patience, leaving raw nerves and old grudges exposed. Jessica stood near the well, spine straight, refusing to look guilty for something she hadn't done. Her father argued nearby, voice sharp as barbed wire. "We followed the agreement," he snapped. Every drop measured. James stood opposite her, beside his own father, whose expression was stone cold. James kept glancing toward Jessica, unease etched into his face. He didn't want this she could see that. But loyalty was a heavy thing. "Someone took water at night," Mr. McAllister said. "More than agreed." "That doesn't mean it was us," Jessica fired back. The men began shouting over one another, words piling up until they meant nothing except blame. The air felt charged, like lightning waiting for a place to strike. "Muff!" The shout cut through the noise. James stepped forward, planting himself between the families. "If someone took water, we find out who," he said firmly. "Pointing fingers won't make rain fall." A few men scoffed, but others quieted. Jessica felt a flicker of gratitude, and something deeper, more dangerous. That night, unable to sleep, Jessica rode out alone. The moon cast long silver shadows across the land, illuminating the well in ghostly light. She dismounted quietly, crouching near the wooden frame, searching for tracks in the dust. She wasn't the only one. James emerged from the shadows, rifle slung over his shoulder. Figured you'd be here. Jessica startled, then exhaled. Same. They exchanged a look, wariness mixed with understanding. Someone came after hours, James said, pointing to faint hoofprints. Light horse. Probably trying not to be noticed. These aren't Harper tracks, Jessica said quickly. Our horses are heavier. James nodded. And not McAllister, either. The realization settled between them. A third party, a neighbor, or worse, someone looking to turn the feud violent. They worked together, in silence, studying the ground, piecing together the story the dust told. Every now and then their hands brushed, sending sparks through the still night. Why? Help me, Jessica asked quietly. James didn't look up. Because I don't think you're lying. Her chest tightened. Thank you. He finally met her gaze. Don't make me regret it. As dawn crept in, they sat on the edge of the well, exhaustion weighing heavy. The land stretched endlessly before them, dry, unforgiving, and beautiful in its own harsh way. I used to think all McAllisters were the same, Jessica admitted. Stubborn, cold. James huffed a quiet laugh. And I was taught Harpers would steal the boots off your feet. She smiled, despite herself. Guess we were both wrong. For a moment, the world felt simpler. No families, no feud. Just two people caught in the same storm, without rain. Then, James stood. If our families find out we were here together, they'll lose their minds. Jessica finished. He hesitated. Still glad you came. So am I. Later that day, a fight broke out at the north fence line. A gunshot cracked the air warning fire, but close enough to send fear racing through both ranches. Jessica ran toward the sound, heart hammering. She found James already there, helping pull two men apart, blood streaking one's face. This is getting out of hand, she said, breathless. James nodded grimly. And it won't stop on its own. Their eyes met, the unspoken truth clear between them. The feud was no longer just about water. It was about pride, fear, and what would happen if either side refused to bend. As the sun dipped low, casting red across the land like spilled blood, Jessica knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, she and James were already standing on the same side of the line. The drought worsened, and so did the tempers. By the end of the week, the land seemed to groan beneath the weight of too many grudges and not enough mercy. The well, once a symbol of survival, had become a spark waiting to ignite something far more dangerous. Jessica rode hard across Harperland, breath tight in her chest. One of their calves had collapsed that morning, too weak to stand. Her father's face had been carved with helpless anger as he turned away, unwilling to let her see him break. She headed straight for the well. James was already there, hauling water faster than usual. When he saw her expression, he stopped. What happened? We're losing stock, she said, voice shaking despite herself. If this keeps up, James didn't hesitate. He filled her barrels past the agreed line. Jessica stared. James will be accused. I know, he said quietly. But I also know what it's like to watch animals die because pride says no. She swallowed hard. Your family, I'll handle them. For a moment, neither spoke. The unspoken truth hung between them. This was no longer just kindness. It was loyalty. They were interrupted by the sound of hooves. Eli McAllister and two other men rode in, fast eyes sharp. Eli took in the overfilled barrels and swore. What do you think you're doing? James stepped in front of Jessica. I made the call. You had no right, Eli snapped. This is how wars start. Jessica bristled. We didn't steal. Eli's hand dropped to his gun. James's voice turned dangerous. Don't. The air froze. One wrong move and the valley would remember it forever. Then, another rider appeared, old Mr. Turner from the neighboring ranch, pale and shaking. It wasn't them, he blurted. The water theft. It was my hands. I told them to take it. My well dried up first. Silence crashed down like thunder. Eli lowered his hand slowly. You lied. Mr. Turner nodded miserably. I was desperate. The truth shifted everything, but not enough. Later that evening, as tension still crackled through both ranches, a fight broke out at the well. In the chaos, the wooden supports gave way. The ground collapsed beneath James's feet, and he vanished with a shout. James. Jessica ran without thinking. She dropped to her knees, heart pounding, peering into the darkness below. I'm here, his voice echoed weakly. Legs pinned, ignoring shouted warnings behind her. Jessica grabbed a rope and lowered herself into the well. The space was narrow, damp, and terrifying. She found James wedged against broken beams, pain etched across his face. I told you not to be reckless, he muttered. She laughed shakily. You started it, working together. They freed his leg and tied the rope tight. As he was pulled up, James grabbed her hand, refusing to let go until she was safe too. When they emerged, dust-covered and shaken, the crowd fell silent. Jessica and James stood close, breaths uneven, hands still clasped. This has gone too far, Jessica said loudly. Someone is going to die if we don't stop. James nodded. We share the well openly. Together, or we lose everything. Some protested. Others looked away, but the line had already been crossed. Later, as the stars came out, Jessica sat beside James on the edge of the land, tending the scrape on his arm. You could have been killed, she whispered. So, could you, he replied. But you didn't hesitate. Their eyes met, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. I don't want to be your enemy, James said quietly. Jessica's voice trembled. Then don't be. When he leaned in, she didn't pull away. The kiss was gentle, uncertain, but it sealed something stronger than any agreement written in dust. The land was still dry, the future still unsure, but for the first time, hope took root. The morning came quiet, as if the land itself were holding its breath. Jessica stood at the well. Just after sunrise, the sky streaked with pale gold. The wooden supports had been reinforced overnight. The damage, a visible reminder of how close everything had come to breaking apart. People included, word had spread quickly about James's fall and Jessica's descent into the well after him. In a place where grudges lasted generations, courage traveled fast. James approached from the McAllister side, walking slower than usual, a slight limp betraying his injury. When he reached her, he tipped his hat. Reckon we made ourselves the talk of the valley, he said. Jessica smiled faintly. Wouldn't be the first time our families had something to argue about, but this time felt different. One by one, the ranchers arrived, Harpers, McAllisters, and neighbors, whose wells had long since dried up. No one shouted. No one reached for a weapon. The drought had stripped them down to what mattered most, and pride finally seemed smaller than survival. James's father cleared his throat. This land won't forgive us if we keep fighting. Jessica's father nodded slowly. Water doesn't choose sides. The words settled deep. An agreement was reached, not scribbled on paper, but spoken aloud and witnessed by all. The well would be shared. Repairs would be done together. No guards. No schedules enforced by threats. Trust, fragile but real, would replace the old rules carved in anger. As days passed, the rhythm of life changed. Harper and McAllister hands worked side by side, hauling water, fixing fences, tending cattle. It wasn't easy. Old habits don't die quickly. But each shared task loosened the grip of the past. Jessica and James moved carefully, their relationship known but unspoken. Stolen glances became quiet walks at dusk. Shared laughter replaced suspicion. In each other, they found understanding no one else could give. One evening, clouds gathered low on the horizon. The air shifted, heavy and electric. Do you feel that? Jessica asked. James smiled, eyes lifted to the sky. Rain. When it came hard. The land drank greedily, dust turning to mud beneath pounding drops. People ran from their houses, laughing, crying, arms lifted as if blessing the sky. Jessica stood in the open, rain soaking her hair and clothes, joy bursting in her chest. James joined her, pulling her close. Guess the land finally decided we were worth saving. She laughed through tears. Maybe it just needed us to stop fighting. As the rain washed away, the lines drawn in dust, Jessica realized something deeper had changed too. Love hadn't erased the past, but it had given them a future. Beyond the waterline, beyond old feuds, something new had begun, and it would last. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.